Hi, everyone. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. Welcome. If you're new, welcome back. If you've been here for a while, really appreciate your presence here, all your comments, your questions. Really appreciate that. Just want to say a little heads up because I know that there are new people here. Um, just, sort of one little ground rule, which is that this is not a reading a channel that is meant to teach you how to read. I mean, I think incidentally, you certainly will learn a lot about how the cards work and how to read, but this is not a tutorial channel for that per se. Um, as you know, if you click the link under every video of mine, you can find your way to my links, and you'll find there the link for my book, which will teach you how to read Lenormand, my course, which is an evergreen course, which means that the lessons are all pre-recorded, videoed by me, and you can learn at your own pace. So I have those two tools there. Also, there's a link to how to get my deck if you're interested in the deck. Um, I'm still toying with thinking about doing a membership piece, which would include um, people being able to put up spreads and getting commentary on them. But, we'll see. I may do it once we're a year old in August. I may not. But there are lots of forums, just so you know, out there in social media land where you can practice and get feedback from other readers. So this is not that channel, just so you know. Okay. Oh, now I did make a mistake yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. Or yeah, I guess it was yesterday. Obviously, I should have known the program, the Nazi program that I was referring to, where women were conscripted to bear children of Nazi soldiers who would then become good little, Nazi children, was of course called Lebensborn, like born. Lebensborn. Lebensraum was actually also a program of the Nazis, and that was more about sort of the idea of, well, it's sort of like a old style gentrification, right? You know what gentrification is. Gentrification is you'll have a neighborhood that maybe has historically been um, uh, populated by people of color. And gentrification means that those people are driven out so that white people can take over. That's basically what a gentrification is. That's what the Lebensraum program was. Getting rid of people who already lived in a particular area and then flooding the area with Nazis. Gentrification. Okay. But Lebensborn is the program for the with the women and the babies. Okay. On another note, oh, by the way, delighted that so many of you did your homework. Of course, you did it the 2025 way. A lot of you didn't actually go and read the play by Aristophanes, Lysistrata, but you Googled it, you Cliff Notes searched it, you watched it on YouTube because you can find it on YouTube. Listen, I don't care how you did it. I'm just delighted that so many of you did. So now you understand my Lysistrata reference from yesterday in regard to that program. Okay, there are four things that I'd like to look at today in no order. The first is the shocking arrest of the Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. She was presiding in her courtroom over a case where this was an undocumented person who had come to court to answer a charge of domestic abuse. Now, it was a charge of domestic abuse. So whether he was guilty or not guilty is actually, for the purposes of the question, neither here nor there. Obviously, that's a heinous thing to do or also to be accused of, but nevertheless, that's not the point. The point was he was undocumented and he showed up in court to answer to this charge. And so there he is, in court, and there's Judge Dugan presiding. And who shows up but ICE and the FBI wanting to obviously arrest and deport him. Judge Dugan thought that it was I don't know, a breach of etiquette at the very least, and a breach of due process for this guy to voluntarily show up to answer the charge, this one charge, and then be snatched, um, by ICE. So apparently, what happened was she, during a break, I guess, in the proceedings, escorted this man, and his name was Eduardo Flores Ruiz, escorted him and his lawyer out a side door so that they could leave. And so Judge Dugan was then arrested for obstruction, because ICE and the FBI were there to arrest him. Now, remember, there are two different philosophies at work here. Judge Dugan's philosophy is undocumented or not undocumented, it's good that this person showed up to answer to this charge. Don't we want people who are accused of crime to show up in court? That's a good thing. You don't want to inhibit that kind of cooperation with the court system. But the FBI and the ICE position, which is to say the administration position, is this. Any kind of situation like that, like a courtroom, for example, or a school, or a church, anywhere where someone shows up undocumented for, because they're worshiping or because they're going to pick up their kids at school or because, they're answering a traffic summons, whatever it is. Think of those places, says the FBI and ICE and the administration. Think of those places the way we think of them, which is as, I don't know, a mousetrap. So they enter the mousetrap because there's cheese in it. That's why a mouse would go in a mousetrap, right? There's cheese. Well, what's the cheese in this case? Well, the cheese is you're going in to pick up your kids from school. So the kid is the cheese. Or you're going to pray and communing with your God in community with other people is the cheese. Or the traffic summons, pleading your case in court and hopefully getting off or getting off with a fine or whatever is the cheese. Whatever the cheese is, it doesn't matter. When these people put themselves in a mousetrap, we're going to snap the trap closed. So it is a difference of philosophy. The judge believing that the courtroom, forget the church and the school and all that, the courtroom is really a sacred place over which she herself, because it's her courtroom, has jurisdiction. So that's why she did what she did. Now, whether what she did was right or not, in other words, showing them the back entrance so that they could get out, that will be adjudicated at a later date. What is very clear is that what FBI and ICE did was illegal. So I would like to know. So anyway, she was arrested. She was later released on her own recognizance. So it's not like she's in jail still or anything, but she's going to have to answer for this. And I guess I want to see what's going to happen. And I think I'll use her as the focus card. So we'll use the older woman. And I'd like to know what's going to happen with Judge Dugan and her case. Not just with her case, but with the case period. In other words, before her case is adjudicated, what should really be adjudicated is did ICE and the FBI overstep? So I guess what I'm going to do is imbue with that, imbue that card, the older woman card, with the energy of the situation. And let's see what they say in terms of what's going to happen there. Because if you can just up and arrest a judge like that, hmm, boy, are we're more than inching towards an autocracy, totalitarianism. Okay, here we go. So remember, we're looking for the older woman card. That will stand for the situation and the energy around the situation of Judge Hannah Dugan. Okay, so this is Judge Dugan and the situation around her. And I think I'm going to pull some clarifiers. I'll pull them on her, and I'll pull them on this fourth card, and I'll pull them on the fifth card. So the cards are the mice. We've seen this card a lot. The snake, Judge Dugan and the situation around her, the scythe, and the garden. So again, why was she arrested by ICE and the FBI? Well, by the FBI. This is to instill fear in judges. This is a problem for the judicial branch. Here she is. Then we have the scythe in the garden. I actually like this because, you know, whatever the courts decide on this, the people will have the final say. And by who do I mean when I say the people? I think the people who've taken to the streets thus far in protest against this administration, I think they will be the deciders. It's very clear that this was meant to put fear in people and in the judiciary that we can arrest you. No one is safe. Uh, but look, we have the snake, which is the problem that this creates for the judiciary and the public at large, being cut. Good. I'm not mad about that. And cut how? Cut why? Because the people will say, you can't do this. You can't do this. So I pulled clarifiers. Here is Judge Dugan and the situation. We have the anchor, we have 47, and we have the width. She will stand firm on her right to run her courtroom as she sees fit without interference from anybody. Anybody, like who ever heard of that? You don't, I mean, anyway, she is firm in her decision. And 47 is just as determined to take her to the mat on this. This is the card for arguments, heated arguments. And he won't give, but she won't give either. We have this scythe, and then the clarifiers are the young man, the heart, and the clover. I think that the people will choose in favor of, you know, democracy, the defendant's right to a fair trial. And I think that this will be decided in short order. Uh, you know, these are good cards, but I think that they're good cards not for 47. I think these are good cards for this judge and for the rule of law and for the tradition of having a judge's courtroom be in her control, not ICE's control. So here we have the people, and the clarifiers are the rider, the tower, and the clouds. This to me feels like just one more nail in the coffin, because what the people will take away from this, the message that the people will receive from this is that government can't be trusted. I mean, this government anyway, cannot be trusted. Now, also, I can mirror this cloud card with the first card, mice. It's clear that this, going after this judge was meant to instill fear, not just in the judiciary, but in the people. But I think that what this is doing is eroding any confidence that people will have had in this government. I don't know how they could have had any, but people are falling away in droves, not enough of them and not fast enough, frankly, from 47 and this administration. But this will do him no favors. Um, this will be sort of a test case, I think, in terms of what is overreach, what is presidential overreach, what is governmental overreach. Theoretically, there are three branches of government. The judiciary is one. The executive is one. So if the executive tries to usurp the authority of the judiciary, that's a problem. Okay. The next question I want to look at is 47's investigation into Act Blue. If you've ever given a financial contribution to a candidate or a cause on the Democratic side, you will have probably done it if you did it electronically through Act Blue. Act Blue is a clearinghouse in the same way that PayPal, for example, is, or Zelle is. It's just that it's specifically for political contributions. The money that Act Blue makes is not a ton. The bulk of the money, if you make a contribution, all of your contribution goes to the candidate. So let's say you make a $10 contribution. That candidate or the cause or whatever it is will get all $10. But then there's another thing on Act Blue, you can tell I've contributed to them, where it will, excuse me, invite you to leave a tip for them. And they might have a suggested amount, but anything is great. That's how Act Blue makes its money, on tips. And if you've ever had a job where, you're surviving on tips, you know that that's not, you're not going to get rich off of that. 47, and Act Blue is the primary organ that, again, it's a contribution clearinghouse. It's the primary way that regular people, can contribute to campaigns and to causes, Democratic. And 47, of course, although he can have, I don't know what, gold shoes and fake crypto and steaks and vodka and make money any kind of way he sees fit to make money, he doesn't want the Democratic Party to be able to raise money for candidates and causes. So how is that attack on Act Blue going to go? I will say we already know one of the things that's happened is that Act Blue has been just tsunamied with donations to causes and to candidates. Great. But what I really want to know is, will 47's campaign to investigate them with an eye, of course, to eliminating them, destroying them, will that work? Of course, he's got people on his side, like that picture of Dorian Gray, female version, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, on his side. But where will this go? Where will this attack on Act Blue go? So I think I'm going to use the scythe, because the scythe is the card for an attack. And this is an attack on the democratic organ, um, method to electronically make contributions to candidates and causes. It's there's nothing illegal about it. It's completely above board. There are no complaints that have been forthcoming about it by people who've donated. This is just part of the retribution tour of you know who. So I'm going to use the scythe. How will his attack go? Okay. Please do like, share, subscribe. The channel's growing. I'd love it to continue to grow. That will determine what I do with it in the future. So here we go. This is the attack on Act Blue. And I think I will pull some clarifiers. Okay. So we have the young woman, we have the heart, we have the scythe, we have the star, and we have the birds. So, I mean, these two together make me want to say that even though Act Blue is partisan, right? It's for Democratic fundraising. They're just minding their business, doing their thing. They're not an attack organization. There's nothing nefarious about them. They're just trying to live their life. Can they live their life? Can we just donate to how we want to donate? Freedom of speech. Can we not give to the causes and candidates of our choice? So it's benign, those two cards say. Here's the attack on it. And moving forward into the future, this is just going to create more publicity and buzz for Act Blue. And we'll see that in the clarifiers. That will be confirmed. So here we are. This is the attack. Uh, Coffin, garden, tower. It will be seen as overreach, governmental overreach by the people who will shut down this attack. This attack will go nowhere. We have the star. Clarifiers are the young man, the mice, and the dog. I will say that moving forward, there could be, this feels kind of Cash Patelish, this card in the moment. Again, normally I love all my cards, but sometimes energetically they stand for things that I don't love. Cash Patel, of course, is the head of the FBI. And I think that what will happen probably is they will try, speaking of back doors, they will try a different sort of backdoor approach. In other words, um, if we can't get Act Blue, we can instill fear in the people who contribute to Act Blue, right? Which will be people like you and me. So that will be their next plan of attack. Again, it's an attack on our civil rights and our constitutional right to um, free speech. But that's what they'll try. If they can't get Act Blue, they'll try to get a list of who the donors are and go after them. So here is the fifth card, birds. This is people sort of convening and talking about this and saying, what is going to be our response to this attack on Act Blue? And we have clover, stork, and house. And for once, this is not the White House. Um, so these are people gathering, planning, uh, talking, um, amassing, quick, fast, and in a hurry, which is a good thing, in a way that will actually end up serving Act Blue and by association the candidates and causes that it supports. Well, it will end up being good for them. Stork is about positive change. Um, you don't go to somebody's house and attack them in their house. So, do your dirt, Donald, with Citizens United and whomever else, Leonard Leo, Teal, Musk. You do you. But this is our house, and we care about democracy. And so, hands off, act blue, I think will be the message that he has sent. Again, he's doing that thing. He's throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what's going to stick. And that Act Blue attack is not going to stick. And by the way, Act Blue is not really seeming too bothered by this. Kind of the way it's a summer day and a mosquito buzzes in your ear and you just smack it. It's kind of how they're thinking of this. Okay. Uh, two more, and these would be not United States questions. The first one is, how will tomorrow's funeral go? I mean, I am assuming the Erica part of me is assuming it'll go the way it's supposed to go. It'll be just fine. I've seen, some online say things like 47 will cause a scene. Kind of like, remember when he shoved the president of Montenegro when he was trying to get to the front of the photograph? Will he have an opportunity to create any kind of problem? I'm pretty sure the Vatican is a well-oiled enough machine that that will not happen. Hopefully, he'll be jet lagged. I'm just saying, because he's on his way there now, I suspect, to take a red eye flight over there to be there for the funeral in the morning. So he'll be tired. Good. I expect things to go fine, but people have asked, and so I will look. So a viewer asked me, is he gonna go? Well, yeah, he's gonna go. Like, he will want to take it as an opportunity to do some soft politicking, some schmoozing. I don't think he will, um, I don't think that will be successful because it's not appropriate to be schmoozing at the funeral of the Pope. So I think he'll be cold-shouldered in that way. I think that the president of Italy, whom I'm calling the Trump whisperer, she has politics that are not unlike his, apparently, entertainment purposes only. He feels that they have a kinship. There's a simpatico relationship between the two of them. Europe, of course, is going to want to use that to their advantage and sort of have her be their Trump whisperer. But I don't think there's going to be much time for any wheeling and dealing. All I want to see is whether Francis will be laid to rest in a beautiful, dignified um, ceremony. I'm going to watch it. I'm wearing my comfortable shirt because I'm going to be up late because for me, where I live, this funeral starts at 1 o'clock in the morning. I have a friend who lives in Italy, and we're going to be watching it together and doing a running commentary with each other. Um, I'm not going to look again for a while at who the next pope will be. If you are curious about the cards, thoughts on that, I did a video about that a couple of videos ago. So go check that out if you will. Um, but I just want to know how the funeral goes. Let's let Francis have a moment to be remembered and honored. Okay, so I'm gonna use the coffin because and that will stand for the funeral tomorrow. Okay, so this card stands today for or right now for the funeral of Pope Francis. I'll pull a couple of clarifiers because I see something interesting. Okay, so we have, did I say these already? No, we have the heart, we have clouds, we have the coffin, which stands for the funeral, we have the tree, and of course, you know who has to show up, 47. So, um, you know, people are showing up in droves out of love and respect for uh, Pope Francis, and the funeral will be no different. Um, that's why people have come to honor the passing of a great man. That's why they're there. That's what they'll do. That's what will happen. Uh, I'm sure that 47 will try to do some networking, we'll call it networking, among the allies, I mean, titular allies, because we have not proved to be a particularly good ally to those people who will be representatives of their country at this funeral. But anyway, allies. This is tariffs. This is money. And so, you know, he will want to do a deal or talk about a deal with certain individual countries, and they're going to be like, doing this is a funeral, respect. I don't think that will be well received. Um, in terms of the funeral, the clarifiers that I drew are the sun, the garden, and the rider. First of all, I think the weather will be good. Sun, I just do. I think the weather will be good for this funeral. And the people will have come out to give the message that, you know, um, that this was a worthy servant who we are taking to his rest. And Godspeed on the journey, and thank you for your service. But remember that I did want to look at the funeral. I said that the center card, this is the focus card, we're looking at the funeral. But also, remember with an eye towards, was anything going to jump off? Were certain people going to be difficult? Um, he will try to schmooze people. People won't be having it. They'll think it's in very bad taste. Like, what are you doing? And, what are you talking about? We're not your friend. And you know, your dumb tariffs are screwing up everybody's money. So nobody's going to want to talk to him there. But this next card was interesting. I already thought it was interesting before I even pulled the clarifiers, especially given who it's next to. This is the card for health. Now, Francis's health is moot at this point because he's gone, he's passed. So whose health are we talking about? The fifth card, 47's health. So the clarifiers, and maybe I'll draw a third one. I have two here, but I'm going to draw a third. Um, Clarifiers for his health, crossroads, scale, and birds. I mean, it's a quick trip, and red eyes are convenient but difficult on the biology, I think, of an aging body. I'm just saying. I mean, when I was in Rome, we scheduled a 24-hour layover. We are coming from the West Coast all the way to Rome, so it's a long flight. And we took 24 hours and we slept 24 hours in Rome before we went on to our next destination. And it's because, we're older. So I think, now granted, he can sleep on Air Force One, but I just think he may have some health issues that seeing him in a crowd, I don't know that he's going to seem as hale and hearty as he likes to seem. Uh, Maybe some circulatory issues. Crossroads can be that. And then we get to the fifth card, which is him. And this is travel. Travel will be hard on his body. It'll be physically hard on him. And as if in case there's any uh, doubt about who we're talking about, the other card for him shows up, which is the malignant narcissist card in this case. Again, sometimes I love the bear. It means many different things, but when it shows up with him, that's what we're talking about. I think this trip will be physically hard on him. I'm not saying that, you know, anything's going to happen. I'm just saying it's going to be physically hard on him. And remember, I said circulatory issues. Well, I can take this final card, which represents 47, and I can mirror it with the very first card, which is clouds. So I think he won't feel well. And I also think if we hear from him at all, he will sound like he always sounds, kind of not too with the program. This is the card for, a lack of mental clarity, for example. So I think that could be a thing. So will he make a scene? I don't think he will be allowed to make a scene. Will he feel well on this trip? I don't think he will feel well. Will this be the big one? No, I don't think so. You know what I mean? The big one that would precipitate another state funeral, if you get my drift? I don't think so. I just think he won't feel well. But we're not there for that. We're not there to take his temperature. We're going to be there to watch the funeral and to pay our respects and to watch an historic moment as yet another pope goes to his reward. Okay, one more question. Now, as you may or may not know, if you've been with me a long time, you know that I have a fondness and affection for Canada and Canadians. I will say again that the day after the election in November, I was presenting at a conference in Canada a couple of days later. So the day after the election, I flew to Canada, and it was so nice to be there as opposed to here in the days after the election. Um, I think I find Canadians kind and gracious and friendly, and obviously not all of them are, because everybody is everything. But in my experience, Canadians are Canadian nice, and they do not deserve to be treated in the way that they've been treated. So I just want to go on the record and say that because I mean, I am sorry. I am so sorry. But anyway, on Monday, finally, Canada will have its national election. And it's not kind of the way we do it, because for us, it's like who is the man or woman who's going to win? There, it's which party will get the bulk of the votes. And the reason that there is so much emphasis on liberal Mark Carney and conservative Pierre Poilievre is that they are the heads of their respective parties. So if their parties win, um, logically, they then win. They will be the ones whichever one party wins, that man will end up being the prime minister. So this election has taken lots of twists and turns. Very early on, it looked like the conservative Poilievre and his party were taking the lead. And that's because of the way the election turned out here. Uh, Poilievre has, I mean, I've heard out of his mouth um, words that make me think that he is I'm going to say, sympathizer of 47. And I have lots of Canadian friends who agree to the extent that they'll even call him the Canadian Trump. I have other Canadian friends who say that's not true, that he's not at all like Trump, that he's a fiscal conservative, and that that's what is called for now in Canada. So I will say that I notice my own personal self, not anecdotally, just from my own, empirical observation. Uh, Poilievre does seem to have changed his tone and his tune once the tariffs were became a thing, and once this abuse of Canada became a thing, and once all this stupid, ugly talk about making Canada the US's 51st state became a thing. This is when you hear Poilievre talk about, you know, Canada for Canadians and Canada first. Um, he wasn't necessarily singing from that hymn book before. Mark Carney, who is a banker or was a banker and understands economy, um, also is in an awkward position of having to thread a needle. He's the Liberal Party candidate, the non-Trump, the anti-Trump candidate, and has sort of hung his hat on being the anti-Trump candidate. There's some controversy about whether or not he was truthful about what happened during his meeting that he had one-on-one with Trump, where he said that everything was fine and they saw eye to eye. I can see a politician coming out and saying that, not wanting to step on toes, etc. But in other venues, Carney has been clearly not a fan of 47. 47, I think, of course, seems to destabilize everyone. They don't want to put a foot wrong because he's such a petulant child, entertainment purposes only, and you don't want your country to pay the price for that. So I'm going to be a little bit forgiving, not that it's my place because I'm not a Canadian, only in my heart. um, uh, I'm going to give a pass to both men because again, 47 is destabilizing. Um, so what's happened in recent days is that the margin, it went from Poilievre looking like he had a huge lead to Carney really meeting him toe to toe and then surpassing him. And this was after the tariff stuff began, to now looking like things are neck and neck again. I am not going to preclude the possibility that there could be some shenanigans that happen in the Canadian election, because, of course, there are going to be foreign agents who have interests in how that election turns out, just as foreign agents had interests in how our election turned out. And I'm not going to say that maybe some of those foreign agents are American agents, because they would be foreign to Canada, right? So there could be shenanigans. It could be that the vote is not decided early, but rather it will take some time. That's what I think. But nobody's asking me what I think in this moment. We want to know what the cards have to say about which way this election will go. So I think I will pull 5 cards for Carney. They will be up here, and then next I'll pull 5 cards for Poilievre, and give my final answer. And again, I am not your bookie. Uh, I am being paid by no candidate. I have no horse in this race, no dog in this fight. I'm just reading cards. So let's see what the cards say as to which party. I guess that's what we want to look at. We want to look at the Liberal Party. We want to look at the Conservative Party. I understand that there are more than just those two parties in Canada, but those are the two that are essentially in contention um, for leadership of the country. Okay. So five for the Liberal Party and then five for the Conservative Party. Okay, these first five that I pulled will be for the Liberal Party, and Mark Carney is the head of that party. And then we have the Conservatives, who are represented by Pierre Poilievre. Okay, interesting. You know, and I'm going to say that in our country, here in the US, even with everything going on, 47 still has 40 something percent popularity rating. His popularity is going down, but I mean, for it to be in the 40s, in my opinion, it's pretty damn high. So there is I'm going to say, there's a, there's an aroma in the wind that is still, um, what, uh, I'm rarely at a loss for words. I'm just going to say, I don't think that this will be a shoe-in for either candidate. And there could be a surprise along the same lines of the surprise that we got here, where we thought people were going to vote one way, and the only people who voted that way in large numbers were the 92% of us Black women who understood the assignment. Um, and what that told me in this country is that everybody understood the assignment. It's just that some people chose the alternate assignment consciously, purposefully, and self-interestedly, racistly, and misogynistically. And I don't know, that could happen here. I'm just saying. All right, for Carney, we have the bear, the key, the woman, the fox, and the mountain. These are very, very interesting cards. Now, we're looking at Canada. I get that. And yet I still feel that this is 47, somehow influencing the Canadian election. Maybe not in any kind of overtly nefarious way, but just by virtue of his existence, right? There may be people who say, well, um, Poilievre is saying Canada for Canadians, but before he seemed kind of Trumpy. Maybe he can be the one who, like Maloney in Italy, can sidle up to him and, um, make friends and call him off, so to speak. People may think that, whereas they might think that Carney, who is more overtly anti 47, Can't do that. So this is 47 influencing the election just by virtue of his being. Uh, the key, the key is the answer. I always say it's the fraternal twin of the sun, and the sun is a great card, which means that the key is a great card. But remember about the sun and the key. Just like the sun provides us warmth and light and life, too much of it burns. A ton of it exposes things. Well, by the same token, the key unlocks things, and things that it unlocks can be good or not good. So we have this key. I think women will come out in droves for Carney. That's to his advantage. I'll get back to that key, but this is the women's vote. And it is the central card, which is interesting. So women could tip the scale. But remember, we thought women were going to tip the scale over here, and look what happened. Yeah, they tipped the scale all right, right into Trump's lap. I don't love the fox at all here. A fox is sneaky. Also, this is the card for the foreigner. In this case, who would be the foreigner? 47 and his allies and their money. I can mirror the key with the fox. So, are there actions afoot to hurt Carney? And I say that because the card at the end is the mountain. I can mirror it with the bear. This does not look great for Carney. Because even though we have the key, and I love any line that we see with a key in it, it's important to remember keys can unlock doors, they can lock doors. And when it's clarified or mirrored by this fox, this sneaky fox, let's look now at Poiliev, the lily, the scales, the book, the whip, the star. I would say, at a glance, these are much more positive cards than Carney's cards. The lily, this is the card for the older man, peace, whatever. People may think that somebody who um, has more of an ability to get 47 on side would be a better choice for Canada. I think people will make that leap of logic and think that. I'm not saying it's the right leap of logic, but I'm saying it's a leap, and they will think it's logical. Yeah. Um, I think that's what it will happen. I think people will do this cost benefit analysis and say, isn't it better to have 47 think that Canada is their friend? Won't that serve Canada's interests better in the end? I think that's the cost benefit analysis people will make. This is the card in the middle. And remember that this is the book. You and I know that books hold information, but not in Lenormand, generally. Generally, 9 times out of 10, this card refers to secrets. It refers to things that aren't known, things that are hidden, and it's right in the center. So there are wheels, but what's the term? Wheels within wheels. There are um, machinations afoot that will benefit Poilievre that the public will not see. Uh, the whip, and then the star. This is the card for the future. So let's just compare. This is the future. What card did Carney get in this position? The mountain. That's problematic. The whip is the card for discipline. I can mirror it with the scales. So this would be people saying things like, I prefer carny, but I'm going to try to be strategic. I'm going to discipline myself and be strategic and um, try to think logically and balance things off here. Would it not be better to have somebody that Trump thinks could be his friend who could come in there and act like a wolf in sheep's clothing? The question is that what Poilievre would do? Poilievre would do? I don't know that he would act like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He might just act like a straight up wolf. Now, again, I have friends who are conservative and they will just say, listen, whatever, I'm all about my bottom line. I don't give a crap about anything else or anybody else. They'll say things like, I'm thinking about generational wealth and how my children can't get ahead, etc. Everybody will always have a rationale for why they move towards a more fiscally conservative stance. And generally, it's when they get some money and they want to keep it. And I mean, human nature, right? If you earn money, of course you want to keep it. So a fiscally conservative government, you think, would help you keep your money. But there's a lot of other things that go along with conservatism. For me, as a person of color, I would never in life be identified as a conservative, fiscal or otherwise. But that's just me. I think that there will be people who will create rationales to allow them to whip themselves into the line that votes for Poilievre, telling themselves they're being strategic and smart, and also, of course, financially self-interested if they have money. So I'm going to just say, if you think that Carney has it in the bag, I'm not sure that he does. I wish that he did. But again, I mean, I'm saying I have no dog in this fight, but I'm not a conservative. And we all know how I feel about 47. Um, but I have to see what I have to say what the cards say. Now, listen, I also always tell you that energy is mutable, which is to say, let's say that you prefer Carney, but you just thought, well, everybody prefers Carney, so I'm not going to vote because I don't feel like it. It's too far to go. I'd rather sleep in. I get off work too late. Whatever. I don't even know if you have work on an election day, but whatever. Um, Vote anyway, because that's how you would shift the energy of this outcome. As of right now, this moment, it looks to me like Poilievre may have the edge for all kinds of very interesting reasons. Some of them, people's um, understanding of what logic is. I don't agree with what the conclusions that they'll come to, but that's not the point. They will think that they're being too clever by half by voting for Poilievre and saying that Poilievre will be someone who will, put his arm around Trump and then wink at Canada back home and get from Trump what Canada needs to get, which is, stop this stupid talk about the 51st state, stop this tariff stuff, stop that. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I think people will buy that logic. Do I think it's the right logic? No, but that's so. I mean, I don't vote in the Canadian elections either. If you do vote, get out there and vote for whomever. But that's what I see. I think there's a lot. Uh, I think that Carney will have an uphill fight. The Liberals will have an uphill fight. So, bon chance to all my Canadian friends. Good luck. And again, I am not your bookie. I am not being paid by either side to read these cards for the outcome. But I've been asked to look at it, and so there you go. That's what I see. All right. I am sure I will not be doing a video tomorrow because I will be so tired from going to bed at like 3:30 in the morning. But I do have a Sunday conversation coming up that I think you will enjoy, and I hope you will tune in for that. And in the meantime, please do like, share, subscribe. It means the world to me. We are 9 months old now, and that means that, geez, if I had gotten pregnant the day that I hit that first button for this very first video, I'd be showing you my baby now. So anyway, I love how we've grown and I hope it continues. And I really thank you for all your support. Take care.